You open the book with
that quote from Camus.
It's a strong, strong quote.
Camus brings me to tears. And it's funny because I reread The Myth of Sisyphus, which I'd been recommending to people. I'm like, this book isn't that good. But he's got his ethos is my favorite of all the philosophers.
It sounds like the myth of Sisyphus was a myth.
He says,
After act, cute.
all I maintain is that on this earth, there are plagues and there are victims. And it's up to us, so far as possible, not to join forces with the plagues.
Yeah.
And why I have that as the introductory quote to the book is I think morality and ethics are very, very complicated subjects. There's lots of gray areas where you don't know which way to choose. But at a base level, he has another quote that's ascribed to him he never actually said, but something about, is the duty of thinking people not to be on the side of the executioners. If you are, we should do whatever we can not to have blood on our hands, not to be murderers, not to want death. And that in and of itself is a big pill for a lot of people to swallow. We're all brought up, taught that war is a last resort. And yet when it comes to international affairs, it's always often a first priority, and people are champing at the bit to start going in and killing people. And what war means isn't good guy soldiers versus bad guy soldiers. My concern is always with the civilians, with the kids who become orphans, with the wives who become widows, and things like that, and then communities which are ruined forever. So I love that quote of his. I think the book started. It was going to be a recontextualization of Camus' thought. I was going to rip off my old buddy Ryan Holiday, what he did with the Stoics, and do about Camus. And then when I started rereading Camus, I'm like, I've read more into him than is really there. And then it went into a whole other direction.
So you wanted to do almost like an existentialist manifesto. So like, one must imagine Sisyphus happy.
Well, more like Camus for today, and what his philosophy can teach us, like Ryan did with his many books about the Stoics. Yeah. And it was going to be called The Point of Tears.
Live to the point of tears?
Yes, but the title was going to be The Point of Tears.
No, I know, but that from that line.
That's
a good line, right?
Yeah, he has so many good lines.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not about
probably shitty in bed though, right?
Well, no, he was a big Lothario. He was probably pretty
Lothario
good.
Mean?
He got around. What?
What percent of the audience of humans on Earth do you think know the word Lothario?
What percent of them have a computer? Look it up.
Lothario.
It's not some weird term.
Lothario.
Lothario. Lothario.
Lothario. A man who behaves selfishly and irresponsibly in his sexual relationships with women. They're seduced by a handsome, in quotes, they're seduced by a handsome Lothario who gains control of their financial affairs.
Oh, I didn't think, I always thought of it as more as just someone who's like a stud.
Like a player, but no.
Yeah, player, yeah.
There's a malevolent.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay, well then he's...
Selfishly.
Okay, that's not him.
Irresponsibly. And a man, too. Although Ayn Rand would be proud, selfishly.
Well, no,
What's wrong with selfishness?
She wouldn't like that kind of selfishness. That's exploitative.
A man who behaves selfishly and irresponsibly in his sexual relationships with women. Huh. Yeah, okay. So he was just a player.
Maybe a stud. I don't think he was promiscuous particularly.
Nietzsche never got laid, right?
He had syphilis. He died of syphilis.
Oh, it was from prostitutes.
Was it? Right? Okay. Possibly, yeah.
No, you're asking me like I knew the guy. I heard it's from... he never had a deep, loving, fulfilling relationship. He had a very skewed understanding on the way he wrote about women. Although somebody wrote to me and said that's a mischaracterization, that he was actually very respectful of women.
Yeah, but he had that line, if you're going before women, bring a whip. Wasn't that him or was that Schopenhauer?
If I were to quote you from your Twitter,
yeah,
I think I could make a very convincing argument that you're sexist, racist, and probably a Nazi.
Well, I do own like some of Hitler's stuff.
Exactly.
I
rest my case.
I feel like I'm in Nuremberg. I'm going to be hung by his own tie. This isn't a tie, it's a noose.
You should have thought about that when you were saying all those things.